last night was about trying to show the right wing of the party, traditional conservatives, that he is, Rishi Sunak is, the person who's going to protect your money, protect the country, security, immigration. All of those things were really hammered home last night. And you can see that this is not a man who is trying to broaden his appeal to the
No.
wider country, because he does accept, like most people do, that he's facing an almost impossible uphill struggle. I'm not suggesting that this is going to change the terms of anything. I still think people will vote Labour, but I think there will be some people who came away from last night feeling a little bit deflated by it and wondering, well, yeah, things might not change as much as we maybe hoped they would.
Let's talk to Kate McCann, who is Times Radio's political editor. Morning, Kate.
Morning.
The reviews in on the leaders' debate felt like it was a lukewarm victory for Rishi Sunak, and he needed a lot more than that because he's so far behind. He needed a knockout punch. He didn't get that. The flip side of that argument, Kate, is that he probably has set the agenda on the question of tax. Now, whether that figure's true or not, the 2000 figure, Claire Coutinho says it's true. We had Jonathan Ashworth on saying it's an absolute lie. This question of possible tax rises under Labour seems to be the narrative that's emerged from that debate. Will that make any difference?
I think the reality is, going into this debate, there is very little, almost nothing, that will make a difference to the overall election outcome. All of the polls suggest that Labour is on course to win. I think the scale of that victory is still up for grabs, but I think even most Conservatives, probably the Prime Minister himself, recognise that for the Tories to win this election decisively would be really very difficult indeed. So actually, going into the debate, in a way, the Prime Minister had less to lose than Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, because for many people, this would have been the first time that they were really fully engaging with Keir Starmer as an idea, as somebody who they might put into number 10. And that actually means that he had quite a lot to do, Keir Starmer, last night. And I think the reality is that's why you've got this narrative today, which is, Labour missed the mark, they didn't do enough. It's because the stakes were so much higher for them. And this question of tax, why didn't Keir Starmer come out very clearly, very decisively in the initial moments of the debate and knock that £2,000 figure down? I don't think I've not found anybody yet in that Labour team who has an answer for that question.
No.
And I think, unfortunately, it's a really damaging thing.
It's interesting because Jonathan Ashworth didn't really have an answer to it either. Jonathan Ashworth came out full guns blazing on it, saying it's a lie, absolutely knocked it down, and Keir Starmer didn't do that. I mean, he was underwhelming, but that's the knock on Keir Starmer. And in many ways, he's confirmed some people's prejudices about him, that he's just going to win by virtue of not being the other team. And that was probably a feeling you got after the debate as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there is this sense that there is no great enthusiasm for Keir Starmer. There is an enthusiasm for change. I think what the Conservatives are going to do from here for the next 4 weeks is to really push that idea that, well, you may want change, but what exactly is that change? What does it look like? Does it look like higher taxes? Does it look like somebody who would really have control of the things that you say you care about? And the moments that really pushed Labour last night were on immigration and tax. And although they have done a huge amount to make up the ground, which traditionally those things are not where Labour is most trusted, they have done a lot in recent weeks and months to make that. Not just somebody who maybe tunes in, occasionally, doesn't read everything, doesn't consume everything political all the time. You may have come away from that debate last night and thought, well, hang on a minute, I'm not really sure now. I do have some questions. And I think you're right, for Jonathan Ashworth to not again be able to answer, well, why didn't Sir Keir Starmer say these are not official Treasury figures? This figure is not correct. And by the way, here's our document on the Conservative Party. I get the sense that, maybe Keir Starmer thought that was coming later in the debate and he would wait to do that. He didn't want to engage in this kind of this shouty interaction. But you probably could have predicted that was where the Prime Minister was going to go, for the reasons that I said at the start, which is that he had less to lose. And so, he really could go for it last night. And that's exactly what he did.
But the poll that came, the Snap poll was 51-49 Sunak. He did go for it. He was quite shouty. He was quite aggressive. Some people got annoyed by that. Some people didn't. Keir Starmer was a bit soft. The question is that, and you've already, I suppose, answered this. We'll have to see something, won't we? Because the scale of the possible victory for Labour is up for grabs. You'd want to see some of movement in the polls in the next couple of days, wouldn't you? That at least showed a tightening.
I think the Conservatives will want to see that. I mean, what their core strategy is all about is retaining those voters who might just not turn up. And then they're not thinking about trying to turn people onto them. They're genuinely thinking about trying to hold on to people that they thought they could count on before as a baseline. And so, last night was about trying to show the right wing of the party, traditional Conservatives, that Rishi Sunak is, the person who's going to protect your money, protect the country, security, immigration, all of those things were really hammered home last night. And you can see that this is not a man who is trying to broaden his appeal to the
No.
wider country, because he does accept, like most people do, that he's facing an almost impossible uphill struggle. I'm not suggesting that this is going to change the terms of anything. I still think people will vote Labour, but I think there will be some people who came away from last night feeling a little bit deflated by it and wondering, well, things might not change as much as we maybe hoped they would.
Just finally, Kate, we've been talking a lot about the format of these type of leaders debates, because
Yes.
they're a big deal. We've had all sorts of suggestions, including do it in a sauna, have people wired up so they get electric shocks when they don't tell the truth, cut their microphones, put them in sound protected booths. Asma had the idea of each one interviewing the other for half an hour, which I think would be excellent on Times Radio, which we put out a challenge to see if they would do that. What did you make of the format? I know you know about these things. There's that sort of shouty, impossible to moderate matter. The 45-second, you don't actually ever get a debate. You don't get an awful lot of light. You get a lot of heat. Does that matter, do you think? Is there a better way of doing these things?
So I don't think the format helped. I don't think it was anything, as you've been saying all morning, to do with Julie Etchingham, who is exceptional. I think it was the fact that if you give two men who are really keen to go at it 45 seconds to answer a question about pretty much anything, they will not be able to do it. 45 seconds is barely any time at all. And because they felt they didn't get the chance to put their case properly, they were much more inclined to talk over one another, partly because they genuinely couldn't explain in full exactly what they wanted to do. Now some of that is because there was politicking going on, and they're never going to put that to one side. But I think that 45-second limit was an issue last night, and it contributed to the tone of that debate. These things are always really difficult, though. Look, we all know that I had to go at chairing a leadership debate before I keeled over on air. They are very difficult to. We couldn't prep for that.
No.
I don't think it helped either.
That was a blessed relief, to be honest, Kate. The nation stood up and applauded it. An early ending.
I don't think that's the solution. What I will say is they are very difficult to prep for, because your instinct as a journalist is to go into the detail, but actually for viewers, often that isn't what people really want. They want a sense of these people as normal human beings. So Asma, I think your suggestion is a good one. I would suggest we ask them to take each other to do their favorite hobby.
Oh,
Have
yes.
a conversation.
Parkour?
Because I think people. Well, no, I think that's Steve Baker who likes parkour. It's Matt
Hancock.
Matt Hancock, yeah.
Matt Hancock.
I think if you put people in a situation where they feel comfortable, they're much more likely to be themselves. So that's what I would like to see.
That's a good one. Someone suggested the Graham Norton approach, where they get
Fantastic.
wine and childhood pictures as a way of.
And then the chair flips over.
And the chair flips over when. There's got to be something. I mean, we're all suggesting absurd things, but there's a core truth here we're trying to get at, is how do you explain to people without shouting, without baffling, and without lying? Because that's ultimately what we want in this election. And the whole course of this election campaign is trying to find a version of that in some respect.
And I understand there's too much at stake for it to be more relaxed, but I think it does have to be more relaxed. It just has to be more relaxed than, I can't even say it.
Gladiatorial.
Gladiatorial. There's too many syllables in that word.
Exactly.
And time limited.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Kate, really good to speak to you. Take care.
Thanks.
That's
Bye.
Kate McCann there, who's Times Radio's political editor.